Good evening, everyone. And I'm back, Shirley, with Prison Break with Shirley. And tonight we are in the house again with Miss Fia, and we are on part number 3 of Pitt's Prison and the Palace. So I don't know if you were tuned in on for the past 2 weeks, but we have had a marvelous conversation, and just so grateful that I'm not gonna say ran the cause because there really aren't any coincidences, but you being in the house again on tonight. So I'm so grateful to be in your company, Miss Fia.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I'm actually gonna push your mic a little bit closer to you. Make sure our viewers are able to hear you.
All right.
If you will swivel it around, and then we will go ahead and give the disclaimer. So the thoughts and views that are expressed on KRGN 98.5 during this time of Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda are oh my goodness, I'm thinking about Shonda.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Yes, let's just go on and break right on into it. So today is actually Miss Shonda Curve's 40th birthday, y'all. I'm sure she doesn't mind me mentioning her age. She says it all the time. But happy birthday, Shonda. Miss you up here in the studio, but we know you are having a marvelous time with your family. So happy birthday to you. So it's a great day.
It is.
It's a marvelous day. You know, this is the day that the Lord has made, right? And we shall rejoice and be glad in it. And so it's a marvelous time. And so anything that we say on this show is all us.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the producers, nothing to do with the program manager or anyone other than what we say on tonight. And so anything that we say is meant to be educational. It's meant to be something that comes from a spiritual manner and our own experiences, because things are so much better able to minister to somebody when you have a personal experience with that thing.
Yes.
Not that we have to experience everything.
Yeah.
But when we do have a personal testimony about a certain thing, some of those people can't really hear from anyone else who has not sometimes gone through some of those things. And so I'm so grateful to even be in this space and to be able to minister the way the Lord gives it to me.
Amen.
Yeah. So tonight, y'all, we are talking about the prison. And we talked about the pit on last week. If those of you who are tuned in on YouTube, or if you're tuned in on Facebook Live, either on the Prison Break with Shirley page or on my personal page, feel free to comment. You know, we love those comments. We want you to be able to interact. And that's how Miss Fia ended up here in the studio because of that interaction on Facebook. And so we open those doors to you. If I can pull up this phone number, I haven't memorized it yet. I don't know why I haven't memorized it yet. I think they changed the number. I'm gonna blame it on that. Yeah, so feel free to comment on one of those pages on Facebook. We will see those here live, and we can address your comment or your input. But we welcome you to be able to just participate in this process. I'm gonna leave it like that. It's a process. So welcome again. Thank you for being here. And how was your week?
Me again. It's been busy already.
Okay.
It's been busy already. You know, Monday is go time. And so from about 7 o'clock this morning, it's been busy, but it's a blessing. It's a blessing to have work.
Absolutely.
in these days. So.
Yes. Many people don't have work. I actually want to talk about that for a moment, because we know that things are changing. Like unemployment is coming to an end in Texas, right?
Yes.
And some of those extra benefits that people were calling benefits, they are now running out. And so it's time to go back to work, America.
Yes.
It's time to go back to work. Be safe. COVID is still out there, but we have to make our way back to what is going to provide for our families.
Yes.
And making sure that we are doing that in the best manner. And so we had a job fair last week, and they were all of, like I said, probably no more than 5 people came through there looking for a job. Yeah, because things are being provided right now. But that's about to run out, folks. If you don't know.
Very quickly.
Yes. So we're going to have another one in July, and we'll see how many people actually come out. So in the month of July, we'll Innovation by Chamber of Commerce will have another job fair, and so we want you all to come out and to participate. Any employers, if you are looking for an employee, we want you to link up with us and to come out. IBCC, which is Innovation by Chamber of Commerce, also partners. KRGN also partners with IBCC. That's why I'm able to mention them and kind of freely. And so if you are along that lines an employer and you're looking for employees, or if you are an employee looking for employments, come on out. Stay tuned for more announcements in that regards. And so, yeah, the prison. What do you know about the prison, Thea?
I was talking about it with my youngest son today because I had to take him to a doctor's appointment. And so while we were waiting, I noticed that we both started pulling out our phones. And so I said, let me go ahead and use this as an opportunity to talk to him. And one of the things that he brought up was exactly what I knew to be true in my life. And he was saying it. I actually wrote it down. I was like, my baby was speaking knowledge.
How old is he?
He's 15.
Okay. I love to hear from that age group. They be telling us some stuff and you can't do nothing but just look at them.
I know. I'm like, how did you
that
be
came
so wise?
Straight from the Lord.
Yes. Yes. And so I asked him, I said, what do you think are some reasons that keep people in prison and their circumstances? And he was saying that not changing their thinking.
Wow. From a 15-year-old.
Yes.
Yes.
And so I was like, yeah. I said that's really it. That is it right there. And, we really started talking about Philippians 4:8. And, what God tells us to think about. And a lot of times we're not focused on what God wants us to focus on. We're focused on the issues that we have. We're focused on our own shortcomings. We're focused on what other people have spoken into our lives that we may believe. And the truth of the matter is, if we get back to what God says about us and what he tells us to focus on, then we can start to change our thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's really where it starts.
Absolutely. It's all in the mind. It starts in the mind. And so, so a lot of people have never gone to a physical prison, but to be in prison in your mind is probably a more detrimental sentence than physically being behind the cell walls, because you can be free in a prison.
Yes. It's so funny that you should say that, because when I was really thinking about it, I say, unless you are physically in prison, there's always a way that you can become free from any circumstance. And then when I thought about it even more, I said, even in prison, think about Paul and Silas.
Absolutely.
So it really just is your thinking. It begins there, because I know any prison that I ever found myself in the past, it really stemmed back to what was I thinking? How was my thought life? And once, I became a believer, what was my prayer life? What was I really meditating on? And so it's easy to say, to think positive, and you got all the self-help gurus out there, and they're like, speak affirmations over yourself. And even the Word of God tells us to do that. But when you get to a place where you're not listening to any of that, and all you're doing is dwelling on the problem, dwelling on who you think created the problem, you can find yourself stuck.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Absolutely. So the actual definition of prison is a building in which people are legally held as a punishment for a crime they have committed or while awaiting trial. So to bring that to a place where not just physically in prison, but mentally in prison, legally held as punishment for a crime they have committed. Some people punish themselves for a past thing that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel like if they punish themselves, if they don't allow themselves to feel better, if they don't allow themselves to be in a healthy relationship, if they don't allow themselves to go to that next level in business or whatever it is, then they are punishing themselves for those past deeds. But why will we lock our own selves up in prison? Why will we do that to ourselves? And I know most of the times we don't realize that that's what we're doing.
I mean, there's the list goes on. I mean, shame.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Pride.
Goodness. That pride is probably at the top of the list.
Yes. Pride and its twin brother, insecurity.
Absolutely.
So,
my goodness.
Two sides of the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the root of the problem is that you're so focused on yourself that you're not focusing on the one who can give you the answer to get you out of the prison.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So
it can be rough.
It can be until we come to that understanding that we can get out of prison, that we can be better while we are coming through those processes of life. Because prison is meant to be a punishment for something that we did wrong, but it does not mean that you cannot rejoice while you're in prison. You mentioned Paul. Paul and Silas were locked up in prison for preaching the gospel, right? But they didn't let that stop them while they were in there. They were preaching the gospel
and continuing to praise God.
Absolutely.
To the point that it shook the entire place.
Absolutely. Yes. And it was a testimony of God's grace and his power. And at the end of the day, the guards got saved.
Yes.
So we got to continue on, right? Even though we're going through circumstances of life, even though sometimes we may have been thrown in prison, so to speak, by someone else. It does not mean that we cannot and we should not give God praise, that we should not give him glory and honor, because in the midst of our personal prisons, he is the jailbreak.
Every time. And when I think about what they were dealing with and, like you said, how they got there, just going about doing exactly what Jesus told the disciples to do. To heal people, and that's what they did. They healed the woman, of the possession that she had, and so they're like, oh, okay, so now I can't make money off of this woman fortune telling. So yeah, you caused me to lose money. You're going to jail. And a lot of times, when we find ourselves in prison because of other people, we'll find ourselves, instead of doing what they did and praising God through the situation, we find ourselves blaming other people.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're wasting all this time trying to place blame on whoever it is or whatever the circumstance is, whoever didn't do something for you when you were growing up, or, that boss that didn't treat you fairly, or whatever the situation may be. But the truth of the matter is, regardless of what's coming against you, you have the power to overcome it.
Absolutely.
So it's just a matter of us getting to a place where we recognize who we are and recognize the power that is within us to change our situation. So
definitely. And when we realize that power and we begin to use that power, the power of the Holy Spirit, there is nothing that we cannot do as believers, but we have to recognize that we do have that power.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. God is so good. He's so gracious and so kind that he will give us all the tools that we need, on earth, that we can persevere through any trial, any tribulation that we may go through, but we have to use the right weapons. Our weapons are carnal. We have to use spiritual weapons in order to beat the enemy. Because the enemy, when he was in heaven, he know what to do.
Yes. And he also knows the pitfalls that we have and the same thing that tripped us up the last time.
Yes.
So, when you're getting to a place where you find yourself going through the same thing over and over again, it's like, okay, at what point do you decide to learn from the mistake?
Definitely. But I think sometimes we almost, as a people, we almost feel better in that complacency. Because that's all we've known sometimes. Sometimes we grew up that way. And so for us, it's normal. so to speak.
It's familiar.
Yeah, and so when it is familiar, even though it may not be the greatest thing in the world, there's that fear of experiencing something new and better and different. It seems to be everything that's different. There is a fear factor in that.
Yes. And, you can remember like all of those old sayings that people used to say, things that kept them trapped in mediocre situations or even worse situations. That old saying of, well, better to deal with the devil,
Yes.
And that is like one of the biggest cop-outs. And the truth of the matter is, if we're supposed to be living in abundance, then why do you have to settle for tolerating the devil in the first place?
Right.
So I think there's just so many things that we have to really think about, generational things that keep us in prison as well. Ways of thinking and deep held beliefs that we have that we don't even acknowledge until they rear their head.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had some of those situations.
Yeah, like this man is better than no man.
Right. That's foolishness.
Oh my goodness.
Leave me alone. I'm good by myself till the right one comes.
And so, just so many different things that you really have to sit down and really just start to sift through all of the things that you dealt with in the past and say, okay, am I here because it's familiar? Am I here because I'm afraid to strive for better, or to even think that what I want can be attained?
Yes.
And fear should never be a factor. And I know I have a tendency to start a lot of things.
Okay.
And so I'll find myself starting something. I'm like, I can do it. I can do all these different things. And of course we have to have balance.
Yes.
But I think what pushes me sometimes to do things even more is when someone tells me that I can't.
Yeah. But what I will say, but what is your motivation for that? Let me ask. Let me ask that.
Well, I feel like if they're telling me that I can't, if God has placed it in my heart, this desire, then it's obviously something that I can do. So now I'm not saying that, absolutely every whim that comes to your mind, but if there's something that that God has placed in your heart to do, it doesn't matter how difficult it sounds or how impossible it might sound to someone else. Yeah, it might be impossible for them, but it's not impossible for you.
Yes. Definitely.
And so when I know that I have this desire to do this particular thing, and someone's like, no, you can't.
Kind of lights a torch under you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It does for me too.
Oh my goodness.
But I will tell you that I hear and I've seen a lot of people say that very thing, but they're doing it from the wrong motivation. So they're still stuck because they're doing it out of the wrong motive.
Oh, well, I'll show you.
Right. And when they show them, so to speak, and they find out that person didn't care a hill of beans about your accomplishments anyway, then they're still stuck because they were not doing it for the glory of God. And we can't prosper when we're not doing it the right way and for the right motive.
Yes, that's true. That is definitely true. But then, sometimes you'll have people who love you and they may tell you that something is not a good idea because they don't want to see it. They don't want to see you possibly fail and, feel the pain that comes along with that failure. So you really have to kind of check your own motives, like you said, but also, just really check the motives of the person that's giving you that advice.
Yes. So some people may be saying it because they love you, like you said, like a parent who tells you, a certain thing, but it's because of their upbringing that they may have a closed mindset of some things and they just don't want their baby to get hurt. But it's a new day and a new age and a new time. And so if we don't try it, if we don't do it, then who else is going to do it? And we have to show the generations behind us, you know that it can be done. So stepping out of the box and not allowing fear to overwhelm us, because every person, I believe, is born at a set time and a set season for certain things.
Oh yeah.
I'm so glad that I wasn't born during slavery times. I wouldn't have made it. During segregation, I wouldn't have made it. I was born for the here and now for a reason, because I was needed right now. And so when we understand that we have a purpose, and our purpose has to be fulfilled in a certain space with a certain people, then we can go far.
That's true. That's true.
That the prison, sometimes that I know I was in a prison, and that's precisely why this show is called Prison Break.
I was going to ask you, how did you come up with that name?
Prison Break is very sentimental, and I found out afterwards that there's a TV show or some kind of movie series that's called Prison Break, and I did not know that. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I don't think they're gonna come for you.
That's why I made sure with so and so with the tagline.
Right.
But anyway, so it came by way of, first of all, I was having a tough time finding a title, and when I lay down one night, that was the name that came, and then I kind of forgot about the name.
Okay.
Mr. Grace came back the very next day and said the same title. That's how you know it's God.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you came up with that, what was the prison?
I was prison in my mind. I was going through a lot of things. I was married at the time, married in ministry. And, but even though you are married in ministry, it does not mean that you have a Christian marriage. We'll unpack that some other time.
Yes, I understand.
So coming through a whole lot of things, I was active duty, military, coming from the enlisted side to the officer side, those transitions, and wearing so many different hats. I was a business owner, at the latter half of that, probably about halfway through, I became a business owner, just wearing so many hats as mom and doing all these things. But I was in such a rut that I, first of all, did not realize I was in.
Oh yeah. You can get there really easy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Trying to fulfill all these roles, trying to be everything to everybody, husband, children, job, all of these different things, and forgetting who I was, allowing myself to be buried in hurts and in pains, things that I had not addressed and buried, and trying to just make it through life. Yeah. Not realizing that all of those things were someday going to surface.
And when they do.
So trying to be, again, all things to all people, trying to be the good wife and trying to be the good mom and the good soldier and the caretaker of everyone else, because I was I started as a medic, and then I commissioned at 13 years and like 9 months. And so I commissioned to the officer side, but all of that time I was always in the medical field. I was a medic, and then I became a registered nurse, after I got my degree and stuff. So all of that time I was so used to taking care of everybody else. My needs didn't matter. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes now I'm still struggling with some of those things.
Join the club.
As probably every woman struggles with. We're always doing things for everybody else. But when is the time that we speak up for ourselves or take a moment for ourselves? And sometimes when we try to take that moment, it's frowned upon.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yeah. It's like, you needed a break from what?
Right.
It's like, oh, you needed a break? What's so hard that you needed a break?
Yeah.
So
just all kinds of things.
So the year that we started our business, I knew, something in my spirit knew that was just going to be a year. And so my husband was about to have surgery, back surgery at that. And I just felt like I needed a break. Like I really needed a break. And so I took off and I went to the beach. I drove from here to Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
Which is
That's
my
a long
hometown.
drive.
8.5 hours.
That's not bad.
Well, no, it was 8.5 to New Orleans. So I stopped there, visited with my brother for a little while, and then I went another 3 hours. But I just felt like I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And, being near the water, that's my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when I thought about it, it wasn't that I needed to get away with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that, I needed to get away with anyone,
Mm-hmm.
friends, everybody, girlfriend's trip. No,
Mm-hmm.
I just needed some time
Mm-hmm.
some time with God
Mm-hmm.
and some time to just breathe.
Yeah.
And, people can ask you, they're like, well, what's so difficult? Why'd you need a break?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I knew what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
Had I ignored what I needed, then there's no telling what could have come from that.
Absolutely. We get in prison. We get in trouble when we ignore what God innately put in us.
Yes.
He gives us those red flags.
Mm-hmm.
Our bodies tell us when it's time to go somewhere and sit down. It tells us through illness, right? It tells us through headaches and all kinds of things.
Hair loss.
That you need to go and put your feet up somewhere.
Yes.
And talk to Jesus.
Or in the sand.
Or wherever you want to do. And just take care of your physical bodies because you only get one.
And your sanity.
Absolutely. It is so very important.
So even if I hadn't left and gone all the way to the beach, if I'd have just gone.
Well, give me directions. I'm gone.
Yes. But, just to say, it's okay for me to take this time for myself.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not selfish. The kids will be okay. My husband will be okay. Everybody will be okay. But am I?
Yeah, because if we wear ourselves out, we can't help anybody else anyway.
No.
Just like on the airplane, there are directions to you when those masks come down. If the mask should come down, what are you to do? Put the mask on yourself first, and then you can help your neighbor or whomever it is. And so, but if we're not safe enough to stand up, then we can't help somebody else stand up.
Exactly. And so, I think that happens with a lot of people, and not just with women, with men as well.
Absolutely.
They're doing so much for everyone, and they're neglecting themselves. And then everybody's wondering why they're acting out of pocket.
Right.
You just need a break.
Right.
And it's okay to take one.
It is.
And not feel guilty about it, and understand that we all need a Sabbath.
Absolutely.
And that's the one thing that I think nowadays everybody's just go, grind. Got to be on your grind. I'm like, no, that's not even Christ-like. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about grind culture? That is a prison, because you are literally enslaved to a schedule.
Yes.
So I told you before, my husband was telling me about me and my scheduling, because I'm famous for helping anybody with anything if you call me. And we all need a Sabbath.
We do.
And even when it comes to your friends, your business, everything, you have to have a break in everything.
Right. That's why in business, it's important that you are not all things. You may start off by yourself, but you do need a team, so that when you need a break, your business is continuing to move on.
Can we talk about a team? Somebody send us a team.
Yes. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that on some other segment.
Yes.
So yeah, it's really important that we understand where we are.
Yeah.
You can't get to the next place if you don't acknowledge where you are.
True.
You can't set the GPS for some place where you're not standing at and expect it to get to the right location. You're going to be lost every single time.
Or walking in a circle.
Absolutely.
Redirect.
Yes. I remember one time I was traveling and I got off course. I don't even know how I got off course. I must have been daydreaming. I don't know. But the GPS kept on telling me.
Redirect.
I wasn't a bit more paying attention. So when I finally came to, I must have been in one of my I must have been in a strange headspace at that time. And I must have needed a break because I'm telling you, I was not here physically on earth. Before I knew it, I was miles and miles off track. Because I think I was just completely shut down. I have had those moments in the past where I'm just completely shut down.
Oh, good Lord.
And it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing.
No, not driving.
Not driving. Because you can get in a one-track mind. There's been times where, I'm intending to go somewhere, but because I've been on this familiar path so many times.
Yeah, I think we've all been
we
there.
all do that.
Yeah, we've all been there.
And I'm like, wait a minute, this is not where I'm going.
I've been in the car like with a friend and we may be coming back from a restaurant or somewhere else and I'm just driving straight to my house. I'm not taking you
Forgot
home.
the friend was in the car. I've done that too.
and really what it is I almost feel like it's my body saying, okay, you've done enough today. It's time to go home and rest.
Wow.
And it's like, friend, everybody coming home.
Yeah.
So, even when we figure we can go one more mile, we can do one more thing, we can help one more person. When your body says enough, you got to listen.
You do. Because you can end up in the hospital. You can end up dead.
Yeah.
When you don't listen. And that is in every facet of that word. Yeah. Spiritually dead, physically dead.
Yeah.
We can end up dead when we do not listen to what God puts in us. And sometimes, I believe not only do believers listen to this channel, but I believe that there are some passersby who, listen to Prison Break. And so I don't want to just focus this on the person who says they're saved, sanctified, and filled with the precious gift of the Holy Ghost. This is for everybody.
Yes.
We need people to know that you can get out of your mental prison. You can get out of the things that have held you bound for so long. You can get out of that rut that you have found yourself in. Jesus is the only way. He's the way, the truth, and the life. But till you get to that point, there are people that God places on this earth to help us along the way, to get us out of our mental prisons. You've got your psychiatrists, your psychologists, you got your counselors out there. They were placed here by God too. They were placed here for a reason. The doctors are there for a reason. Nurses are out there for a reason. Maybe just your friend that's down the street who has a little bit of experience in the stuff that you've gone through. They can help you along the way to see that there is a better way. And we have to get to a point where we lose those chains of pride that we have and thinking, oh, I don't want nobody in my business.
Yet another one of those old generational things. We don't talk about family business.
Right. What goes on in this house stays in this house. That is a prison all its own. So much bad things have happened in homes.
Oh yeah.
And it's probably why that was said. What goes on in this house stays in this house.
Right.
And so we have to break that prison that we have created amongst the generations and a lot of times our people. I'm sure it happens in every culture, but
definitely
we have to get away from that. We have to allow our children to know that there is always a safe place, a safe space that they should be able to go to get the help that they need, because not every child is going to reach out to a parent.
That's true.
But they have to have some safe space that they can go and talk about their problems too.
Oh yeah. You made me think of someone who has a mentor program.
Okay.
And Elizabeth Jennings.
Okay.
And she has a mentoring program for young boys.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard about it, I was like, yes, because there's always so many people willing to reach out to help young ladies, to help. And women, we're just better about that sometimes of reaching back to a younger generation. But I think for men, sometimes there's this wall there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just apprehension on the part of adult men and offering that help to younger boys that may not have a father, like, oh, okay, well, why do you want to help my child? But I think what she's done is just amazing, because we need that.
We do.
We really
do.
need that. And even like for me, and I think we talked about this before, I love being around older people because they have so much wisdom.
They do.
And, you know, once they're gone, it goes with them.
Right.
If our generation isn't willing to sit with them, to hear their stories, to hear the things that they've been through, you know, the things that they've accomplished that the generation before them never even thought was possible.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
yes. I met a gentleman up in Temple a couple of weeks ago, and I'm praying that we're going to be able to bring this book to fruition. It's talk about some of those things tying in the older generation, not talking about the negative things that have been passed down, but what have our people done has been of benefit that many people don't talk about, but we want younger people to see it can be done.
Oh yeah,
and we can do it. So just bring it to light, those different things. And so that's so amazing. You know, there is another program that was just mentioned today, as a matter of fact, that the Boys and Girls Club is putting together with KDP, and it is a boys mentoring program. Yeah,
really?
Yes.
Okay.
It's called Boys to Men.
Well, that's good. That's
so
easy
it's
to
a camp.
remember.
Yes, it's a 3-day camp. It's going to be happening in the end of July. So everybody out there in Radio Land, everyone on Facebook, stay tuned for that very important camp that's coming. They are going to start with the boys, but they're going to have girls different sections too. And I want to say they said it's going to be 4 times a year, 2 for boys and 2 for girls, and it's going to be for the middle schoolers. But it's a camp. But you got to get them. Yeah, it is definitely get them in that critical stage, you know, and for doing activities that a lot of them would not normally be exposed to.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. Though I don't have any people, you know, in my life that are that age, but just being able to spread the word about community, and so they don't have to enter the prisons physically or mentally. Yeah. I want to go to Acts chapter 12, and this is somewhat what our theme for Prison Break started off as. And so I want to read that Acts chapter 12, and I'm going to start at verse. I'm just going to start at the beginning, just to give a little bit of background history. It says James is killed and Peter is in prison. About that time, King Herod Agrippa began to persecute some believers in the church. He had the apostle James, John's brother, killed with the sword. When Herod saw how much this pleased the Jewish people, he also arrested Peter. This took place during the Passover celebration. Then he imprisoned him, placing him under the guard of 4 squads of 4 soldiers each. Now, who needs that many?
Well, you see how many they sent for Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
So Herod intended to bring Peter out for public trial after the Passover. But while Peter was in prison, the church prayed very earnestly for him. So we know that it is very needed for people of faith to be in prayer for other people. Yes, prayers of the righteous do avail much. And so moving on down to verse 6, it says, the night before Peter was to be placed on trial, he was asleep, fastened with 2 chains between 2 soldiers. Others stood guard at the prison gate. Now they knew he was powerful, first of all, because otherwise, you know, you don't need that many people chained to you. Suddenly, there was a bright light in the cell, and an angel of the Lord stood before Peter. The angel struck him on the side to awaken him and said, quick, get up. And the chains fell off his wrists. Then the angel told him, get dressed and put on your sandals. And he did. Now put on your coat and follow me, the angel ordered. I want to stop right there just for a second. In those verses, not only did he give it, the angel tell him to get up, but he gave him specific instructions.
He did.
How many times are we given specific instructions to help us get out of the place that we're in, and we do not obey? We don't do what was told to us, because maybe sometimes we think that it was so simple, because the instruction, it wasn't hard.
Yeah, just get up.
Just get up. Put your sandals on.
Your coat.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then it says, so Peter left the cell following the angel. It didn't say he had a rebuttal. But all the time he thought it was a vision. He didn't realize it was actually happening. Mind you, he was in prison, chained to other people. When the angel appeared and gave him those instructions, he left the cell following the angel. Verse 10, it says, they passed the first and second guard posts and came to the iron gate leading to the city, and this opened for them all by itself. So they passed through and started walking down the street, and then the angel suddenly left him. Have you ever had a sudden prison break moment? I have.
Mm. Well, you're going to tell me about it.
I don't have time to tell you about it today. But again, he didn't ask any questions. He had confidence that the one who brought the message to him was of significance and that he knew was from God. If I just follow the instructions that are given to me, everything is going to be okay. Not that there's not going to be some bumpy roads, but when you follow the instruction of the Lord, he will take you out of seemingly impossible situations. It didn't say there was a struggle for the chains to break, because it didn't say nothing about these chains being broken off of him first. He led him all the way out of the prison, all the way through the city. And when they got outside of the city gates, then the angel suddenly left him. Peter finally came to his senses. It's really true, he said. The Lord has sent his angel and saved me from Herod and from what the Jewish leaders had planned to do to me. When he realized this, he went to the home of Mary, the mother of John Mark, where many were gathered for prayer. He knocked on the door in the gate, and a servant girl named Rhoda came to open it. When she realized Peter's voice, she was so overjoyed that instead of opening the door, she ran back inside and told everyone, Peter is standing at the door. You're out of your mind. Now see, I want to start right there. So when God does something for us, not every time is everyone going to believe the miraculous. They're not going to believe what just occurred before them. But you can't waver just because someone else is in unbelief,
or because it doesn't make sense,
or because it does. Most of the time, it's not going to make sense.
Sometimes it may not even make sense to you, because I mean, think about it. That couldn't have made sense to him. I mean, he probably thought he was dreaming. That's probably why he didn't even resist. Because I think when it said he came to himself, he realized, I'm not dreaming. I'm really free.
Yeah.
I am really free.
Yeah. God, he brings us into a certain level, and he orchestrates things on our behalf, right? And he does not reveal everything to us at the same time, because he knows who we are. First of all, he knows his children. He knows how he made us. He knew if we had known every single step, that we wouldn't have followed every instruction. So he knew his servant Peter.
He just told him one thing at a time.
One thing at a time.
Because can you imagine if the angel woke him up and said, okay, I need you to get dressed because we're getting ready to get out of here.
We about to escape.
We're gonna what?
Right. He would have woke up all the guards. How are we going to get
past the two guards?
Right.
And more than one layer.
Yes. So Mother Powell said something to me. This was a couple of weeks ago, and I just kind of looked at it. I'm like, yes, Lord. When he asks us to do something, he only requires obedience. He does not require that we understand. No. At all. We don't have to understand.
We want that.
We want that. But we don't need to understand. We need to obey.
Do we?
We do. We do. Because when we don't obey, we find ourselves in a deeper thicket. Deeper in the forest, deeper in prison.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't know which way to go when we get there. But it is so possible for us to get out of the prisons that we have found ourselves in. And some processes are longer than others. But we don't have to stay in prison as long as we do.
True. Because just thinking about what he dealt with right there, and had he gotten to a place where he needed to understand what was going on, I mean, he could have woken up the guards, and then that just completely undoes everything.
Yes, but we don't have time to read all of the whole chapter, but that was a miracle.
It was.
It was a miracle. When Paul and Silas was in prison, and they were praising God, and everything, turned, and all of the cells were open, yet no one left. You
That's
can be at
definitely a
peace,
miracle.
yes, in the prison. No one left, because if they had left, first of all, God would not have gotten the glory out of that. It was so that the prison guard would know, because back in those days, if they had let a prisoner escape, they would have been killed.
Right.
So in all of that, the prison guard came to know Christ because of that incident. What are we going through? What have we gone through for the cause of Christ? Sometimes we don't go through it very pretty, so to speak, but it's not for us. It is so that other people can to know Christ through our lives. It is for his glory. All the things that I went through, it was not for me. It was for another young woman. It was for another young man to come to know Christ. Because of that, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It really is about Jesus. And knowing that we can put our faith in him, our trust in him, and bring us through every single situation. We don't have to know it all, because if we had known it all, we would have quit a long time ago. I would have.
I probably would have just ran, quite honestly, because I mean, some of the things that I've been through, and I think about how difficult they seemed when I was going through them.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like you said, to come through it on the other side and understand that it wasn't just about me.
Mm-hmm.
It was about the testimony that was going to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody wants the test,
Mm-hmm.
but the testimony is needed for the other people.
Absolutely.
Because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony.
Absolutely.
And so if you're not willing to share it, even when you go through it,
Mm-hmm.
if you let the devil keep you in shame
Mm-hmm.
about the things that you went through,
Mm-hmm.
the things that you faced, the things that you overcame, then you don't even share the testimony.
Right.
So, we really have to get past that as well.
Yeah.
And getting over ourselves.
Absolutely.
And understanding that everything that we went through had a purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah. Joseph went to prison. But why did he go to prison?
To
what
save
happened
all of Israel.
Absolutely.
All of Israel.
All that dreaming he was doing,
Yeah.
it was for a purpose.
Yeah.
He was needed in prison.
Oh no, I have a different thought there.
Okay.
I think Joseph went to confinement. He never went to prison.
Well, we gonna call it prison for the sake of this show. How about that?
No,
Go ahead.
no, for the sake of the show, I think prison is fitting, but just not there. I think Joseph went to confinement because he was never in prison. And just listening to you all, and I have another conversation for us to have off air from between here and I exit. But that's
Oh, okay. He always messing.
No, I'm just saying, because I mean, just because you are confined to a space does not mean you're imprisoned by that space.
We already talked about that. You left us, so you missed all of that. we talked about that. I promise you.
But I was listening. I was like, I was weaving in and out of traffic. So let me get back, because
at the beginning you heard us on your way downstairs, because we mentioned that right at the beginning. But it's all good. So we said you can be in prison physically inside a building, but you still be free inside of that prison.
yes,
Definitely.
because you're only imprisoned by something you submit to.
Yeah.
So if you never submit to the confinement, if you
Mm.
never, like Sister McCoy said, if you never submit to the pride or the prideful actions, then you could never be imprisoned by pride, stubbornness, and the hardness of your heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's only till you submit. That's why when you were talking about obedience,
Mm-hmm.
is it obedience that the Lord wants, or is it submission that He wants?
He wants them both.
Which one does He want first, though?
I'll say this. I honestly, I really think it's obedience. And when you think about the safety that it creates. So if you have, I'm just going to give it to, like a simple example. You have a child. You're crossing the street. You're not holding the child's hand, but you see a car coming,
Mm-hmm.
and you tell the child, take my hand. What do you want in that moment? You want obedience.
I want submission. I would. Here's why I say that. I I would want my child to submit to the comfort of knowing that I am their protector. I am their end all be all. Like, I am here for you to know that I got you. So
okay, yes.
No,
he brought it back. He brought it back.
Shonda.
Yes.
No, I'm serious. So, you all have done really, really well today. I like that. Like, y'all are really opening up here. Sister McCoy is really getting things out of Sister Latour that we've never heard before.
I ain't never heard this man call me Sister Latour.
Listen, because I can't call you by your first name. I'm gonna call her by her first name, and then I'm gonna jack all that all the way up. Okay.
Fia.
Yes.
Is what she likes to be called. So however you want to do it. But you can call me Shirley for real.
You know I'm from Alabama, so I'm gonna mess all that all the way up.
See?
So, but no, Prison Break today was really, really well. I think it went really good. And I can't wait for next week. I honestly, Shirley, I do think that this series, you're not gonna be able to get through it by yourself.
This is what he does when he wants to ask somebody to do something. See her shaking her head.
That's my bad eye over there. So that's not as strong as my other. But no, definitely. The principles that you all laid out today, I think, can definitely set someone free, and if they apply them. You know, love is not all powerful, and it does not heal all things until it is applied.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. They must be applied the right way.
Yes.
Yes. Anything else?
No. My mic's off.
So yeah, we're running out of time, but in these last moments, Ms. Fia, what would you say to the person who's in prison right now?
Honestly, I mean, if you're in prison, it's really your thinking, and that's where your thought life has to change. And our thought life can only change if we're meditating on the right thing, and that begins with the Word of God. And there's nothing that we face in life that's not covered.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Right.
And people can call it a self-help book or whatever they think, but the truth of the matter is, it is life. It is life. And when you get to a place where you can accept it as truth, and you can believe what God says about you, and what He says about Him, and you trust Him for who He says He is, you start to see the change in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Amen. Well, everybody, you have been watching Prison Break with Shirley. I'm gonna stop calling you guests. You've been here more than once.
Be here next week.
This man.
Did he turn his mic back on?
I don't think he did.
That was just for the people in the room.
Oh,
Okay.
Lord. So, yes, y'all have been listening to or watching, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you've been watching Pit, Prison, and Palace. And I think next week, I think there's enough to do prison for one more week. And I want to bring out some scriptures and kind of delve into those and make sure people understand and know that the prison is not always bad. It does have a purpose, but you have to find the purpose in your prison.
Okay, you tell me.
Yes.
Did you say purpose in your prison?
There's purpose in your prison.
You make this sound like you go from pit to prison, like foundation level of disobedience or non-submission is pit. Then the next, if you don't submit in the pit, you're going to end up in prison till you submit.
Lord Jesus.
That's what I heard you say.
That ain't what I said, but yes, that's what I said. Yeah. And again, it all has a process to get us to that final purpose that he wants us to get to, that destination. Yeah. It's been a wonderful evening. I feel so at peace right now. I just want to sit here.
Okay, you can.
He gonna shut us off.
Look, you ain't gotta-
Y'all
you
make
ain't
sure
gotta
that
get
y'all
out.
stay tuned to KRGN 98.5 FM. Again, you have been listening to Pitt Prison Palace on Prison Break with Shirley, guest Miss Kia McCoy. Make sure that you keep your dials locked on 98.5. The next voices that you will hear, none other than Marriage Mondays with the Kings. Y'all be blessed.
Okay. Mike's clear.
You know why he's looking